In August, cybersecurity firm Night Dragon teamed up with the New York Stock Exchange to host Cyber Live from Texas, Defending the Next Horizon, covering the latest innovation happening in defense tech, dual use, and cyber in the Lone Star State. Our very own Kristen Scholler was on the ground in Austin, where she spoke with Drew Schieberle, Executive Director of the National Security Innovation Council, about why he's looking to make Texas the partner of choice for solving national security problems. Take a listen.
It's like that the people in national security, military branches, intelligence branches, in commercial space that own problems have the ability to quickly get teams of people who can answer those problems, solve those problems with them together.
We've seen Texas evolve from an oil and gas powerhouse to now obviously leading when it comes to space, cyber, and national security. What led to that transformation?
So Austin in the 80s and before was a sleepy college town. It had a university and a state government. And it was really the vision of people at the federal and state level concerned about Japan at the time and concerned about the United States falling behind in semiconductors and supercomputing that essentially created the environment for Sematech and MCC to be created. And Austin won those. And the purpose of it was to be able to accelerate the innovation cycles to catch up to and exceed Japan. It allowed for companies to work in an anti-competitive, collusionary way to tech map and then to throw resources and talent at catching up and then exceeding where Japan was. With that came companies who needed to be at the cutting edge of technology. And that brought a whole series of companies to Austin that had never been here. What Texas has done in the last several years has created the Semiconductor Innovation Consortium, taking a playbook from Sematech back in the 80s and 90s. They've also created the Texas Space Commission, and I believe Norman's been here. And then the state legislature also created a quantum hub, and it's authorizing the ability for the legislature to put a bunch of money in there. All of that together is around purposeful tech mapping, throwing money at accelerating innovation, being a draw for leading edge companies, and then being able to scale them.
What is it about Texas that sets it apart from other places like a Washington, D.C., for instance, that might be more historically known for defense?
We have been our own country, and we've always had a way of looking at things that's a little bit more independent. But our industrial policy for 70 years was pull things out of the ground and wait for California to mess up. So we need to be more purposeful in how we do economic development, because this is really one of the few big plots of land in the United States where you can add power, you can grow rapidly, you can connect to 4 of the largest 10 cities in the country, and you have a regulatory base that is not constantly trying to micromanage your business and unionize it.
How have you seen a community building in Texas around innovation and national security and cybersecurity?
I think it's around opportunities, and I think it's around people looking at their interests and the interests of others and realizing that they and Texas and the U.S. will be more successful if they work together than if they work separately.
I see here that you will say that the greatest threat to Texas is complacency. So what does being complacent look like in national security innovation, and how do you fix that?
I think that today you have a leadership at the national level, the international level, that understands the great powers competition that we're in. The complacency part is that if we don't have our elected officials develop or share or understand this common operating picture that is very much there at the national level and figure out what the Texas part of that is, and then figure out what the regional component parts of that is.
Then my next question is, what are some of the innovations coming out of Texas that really excite you right now?
One of those is the creation of the Texas Cyber Command. Texas, right or wrong, decided it needed to take border security on as its own. In this instance, they've said we need to be able to create a cybersecurity structure in the state of Texas. And looking at things like the investments that we did as taxpayers in hypersonics research at Texas A&M are going to be absolutely critical if we're in some kind of kinetic conflict, and all of the additive effects that are around both Texas A&M and hypersonics, as well as looking at, we just began to do some investment in the state in wireless communications, 6G type stuff. I think that was encouraging. And then the beginnings of a quantum node in the state of Texas, anchored in the Metroplex, finally just semiconductors.
Let's talk about the next decade.
Okay.
When you look forward 10 years,
Yes.
what is your vision for Texas's role in advancing national security?
Yep. Typically when a Texan is in the White House, where we look at the playing field and say, hey, what should we be focused on? You look at the playing field and say, we have 40 congressional members. What do we want to do proactively as a state in national security? But if we can figure that part out in 3 to 5 years and have a proactive strategy for Texas, I think that's going to be a big thing for our ability to deliver. I think the second is people like Greg Bonin, who's the chair of the Texas House Appropriations Committee. Chair Bonin has been, more than anybody in the state, responsible for identifying how to build the research base in the state. He led the effort to create the Texas University Fund, which put $3 to $4 billion into research. If we can actually get the state to have a common operating picture and look at how to accelerate to the battlefield, that will be a huge, huge win on that part. And then finally is just not to get complacent. You can't have folks who say, why do we have to add energy as quickly as we do? Why do we have to invest in education? Why do we have to do things? Those are three things that I'd love to see happen or not happen in the next 5 years.